Now, we've got one thing we want to watch here. Let's have a look. Warpforge sent this video in earlier, and he was like, what he said was, basically, a channel just made a documentary on the rise and fall of Warmachine and Hordes. And honestly, I saw a lot of similarities in community attitude towards the game as the game's direction became more of a competitive game, minus the infamous page 5. You could swap gotcha moment terminology with stratagems, line of sight, etc. And it now feels like almost a perfect fit. The whole viable and trash debates, game pieces becoming more like chess pieces. I'm surprised we haven't evolved into mousepad terrain yet in current 40k. A lot of this really felt to be like history is slowly repeating itself again with 40k. I wonder if history will end up doing the same with current 40k. I thought it'd be a fun topic to discuss, as it used to be a titan in the market back then. I timestamped it from 5 minutes 14 seconds to 19 minutes 30 seconds, but I thoroughly recommend the entire documentary because it's very interesting and entertaining watch. Let's take a look. So this is obviously, it's about Warmachine, but can we draw any parallels to 40k? Let's have a look.
With Warmachine and with any game system you always have the competitive scene. So on our podcast, Murder of Crows, we talked to, eventually our panel was basically made of really good British players that played competitive Warmachine and a filthy casual known as me. So basically we had the competitive aspect of Warmachine and the non-competitive aspect of Warmachine. And that's with most games. If there is a game out there, they're going to try and turn it into a competitive thing.
We have all these great formats for organized play in 2013, but you know what? We wanted more.
Oh no. World Championship.
Warmachine ended up being a very competitive miniatures game, and that's the way I saw it going in our local area as well in Leicestershire.
Hey, you know what? It looks kind of cool, you know. It looks kind of cool. Whenever I saw Warmachine, people only had like 10 models each. Max. That looks like a proper horde. Pfft. You know what? It's so me to get into a dead war game.
Was we would put on tournaments and it would just be, I'm only practicing this one list.
It's that drive to want to be the best and compete and turn it into a real sport where you really achieve something when you destroyed your friend on a table. No.
He's literally saying that whilst next to a Space Marine. Shit.
Personally, I just want to roll some dice and have some fun.
Some of the things in this game were like brutal. Like you couldn't kill them, but you could kill them if you knocked them down. But they were like little trigger things you'd need to know, obviously. If you...
Oh my god! Like top down, like fucking. This is just like 40k. Look at this. It's just like 40k.
You played the games.
As Signar is wrapping up their turn, he has nullified that Reckoner.
I cannot believe that is a move right there.
Yeah.
Like that's
arm lock for the win.
Arm
in
lock
Iron
for the
Gauntlet.
win in Iron Gauntlet. And that is the caliber of play that you see. I mean, who would have thought to bring out an arm lock at this point?
Yep.
It's that's genius. It's up there with the push to assassin.
So like, oh, I just need to beat your defense to kill you. I'm like, no, I just need to knock you over. Why? Because then that means I can buy more attacks because I'm auto-hitting and I'm just going to try and murder you. And they go, oh. And you're like, yeah, sorry, bro. Like, I used to play a lot of a warcaster called Sorsha and Beast 09. If that crit hitted you, you just became stationary. So hitting you was like a 5+ on 2 dice. That's really...
So here's the difference where... And we'll see, it'll be interesting to see if they address this. Here is a big difference between 40k and Warmachine. In 40k, if something is broken, people only have to wait 3 months to think it's going to get fixed, and maybe it'll get fixed, or maybe but there's always that there's always that hope that's getting dangled in front of you, and often things do get fixed. That's the difference. Often things do get fixed. So it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see if Warmachine fix stuff, or if a broken thing stayed broken. Because if a broken thing stayed broken, then what we're really watching here is someone talking about the equivalent of 7th edition 40k. If a broken thing got fixed, then we're fucked, because they're talking about modern 40k.
rare, but also it then made you like immobile. So basically, you then had this giant strength 19 hammer coming down on you, and most armor was like 15. So you're already doing 4 points of damage. Most warcasters had 15 health. So a couple of boosted attacks into them, you're dead.
Oh my gosh!
No.
22 damage.
It's the oldest gag with him.
Fucking rookie numbers. I've seen someone do 40 damage in one turn in 40k.
The idea that you show up for a friendly local game with your good friend, and it's like, right, time to bring out the most cheesiest bullshit list. And
It's true.
My turn. So your casual friend goes, right, I move my guys forward. No one's in range. No one can charge combat. Right, onto you. Great. I move my guys forward. Feat, spell, ability, spell, spell. Roll some dice. That's it. Your warcaster's dead.
Yeah, I did it on one. I trolled in one tournament. I literally took Zakova, and everyone was like, "Who the hell is she?" And I was like, "I know. Who the hell is she?" And then I basically popped my feet, and the guy was like, "What does it do?" And I was like, "This," and I explained it, and he just. Every opponent I went to in that tournament went like, "No, it doesn't." Judge. By the end of it, and I can quote, I won't throw this judge's name under the bus, came over and was like, "Lee, are you playing Zakova again?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Just fucking stop it, please," effectively. And I was like, "They don't believe me. I'm telling them the truth." And he's like, "Have they read the card?" I'm like, "Yeah, reading the card explains the card." But they just never believed me that she just basically just wags her finger and goes, "No, can't do that. Sorry. Just one turn where you're not going to do anything."
All right, here's
I don't think there's an equivalent to that in 40k right now. But what jumped into my head was terrain. Another difference between Warmachine and 40k now is if we go back and look at those Warmachine boards, very, very open, which is again what things were like back in the day. Just boards were completely open. Whereas obviously in 40k now, like them or hate them, L-shaped ruins stop that, because you can't just like blow someone off the table unless they have made the mistake of fully exposing themselves. So there are some similarities, but I think Warmachine walked, so maybe 40k competitive could run, but we'll see.
a fun one. What army do you hate facing? What army just makes you go, ah, when you see it on the table?
Tau.
Off. But I hate it when I play against Troll Bloods.
Cricks, without a doubt. Every time that, I've got my butt just like stomped into the ground, it's been from Cricks.
The amount of fire they can put out, the sheer number of weapon masters they have, and the overall synergy of the army, when it works perfectly behind a good player, it is really incredibly hard to beat, and I just seem to struggle against them the most out of every faction.
And it's because of one thing. I've lost more games to...
I love the fashion on display here. The 90s had the best fashion. 90s and 2000s. Every hat is on backwards. It's just amazing.
Rolls than anything else. I absolutely hate tough. Love troll models, thinking about getting into them one day, but just not a fan of tough.
And it really hasn't mattered who played them. As long as there was Cricks on the table, not good for me.
There is a few factions where you go like, I don't want to play this faction ever again, this sucks.
Warmachine is a competitive game. Hordes is a competitive game.
40k is a competitive game.
And it makes no attempt to pretend that it is anything other than that.
Oh, we're so fucked.
A lot of the things that would come out of early tabletop wargaming culture, like win at all cost gamers, owe their direct lineage to Warmachine and Hordes. That was the birthplace of win at all cost gamers.
Don't know if I agree with that. I know a lot of people that never touched Warmachine who were win at all costs in 6th and 7th edition. Absolutely win at all costs in 6th and 7th edition. I think Warmachine had been and gone by then, or at the very least was on the way out. So I don't know if that's true. I think what's interesting, I think this is a whole era, and maybe 10th edition is doing it a bit more now, but 10th edition, I will say this 1,000 times, 10th edition is at its sweatiest nowhere near what 6th and 7th edition was. Yeah, agree. I totally agree, Joe. When it all costs the personality trait, not a game style. Yeah, I think that maybe it was an era of that, but 10th edition, for all of its faults, and with all of the models lost, is vastly superior to where 7th edition ended up. You know, not necessarily core rules to core rules, but entirety to entirety.
Brian now considering where he needs to go next.
What to do? What to do?
Placing those cards down. Placing those cards down, though, looks so like fucking stratagems, doesn't it?
He's going for that assassination.
Checked line of sight. Line of sight is good. So Lilith is up there.
All right, time to pin cushion.
But you've even got the knobheads wearing the fucking sports jerseys. There's a lot of similarities here.
In that woman.
They're double checking the 16 inches.
Got it
this
by
is a
more than
snapfire
enough.
shot. Here we go.
So boost it.
Does Haley go down? Needs an 8 to hit.
Yeah, and you've got knobheads with fucking like iPads and shit, and you know that it's a lot of similarities.
Got it.
That'll hit.
Dice off 2. Boosting damage.
Oof. 15 boxes on Haley. Needs a big roll here. 15
points on the
shot
nose.
to 1.
And Brian White wins the game, one-shotting Haley.
One shot to the eyeball of Haley. Takes her right down.
He's really, really not happy.
Crap.
Wow.
That was insane.
Well, you said Karma would give him the high rolls. Apparently, you were correct about one thing this weekend.
And it was the one thing that
this
mattered.
weekend, and the one thing that mattered.
You either beat the other guy and killed their Warcaster, or you lost.
Mankiewicz, Javronsky. I hate all of this. Well, there are similarities between this and 40k, but there are some critical differences as well. It would be very easy for me to sit here and be like, oh my God, we're all fucked. Oh my God, this is exactly the same as 10th edition. It's not. There are key differences. Like the whole, 40k getting updated quite regularly, having the benefit of like digital rules where they can do that. We were just looking at a balanced data slate today, for example. So whilst I think there are similarities, I think that there are some very important differences, which I think do make they're important differences which make the difference.
That was it, right? The other guy.
And
it was the one thing
this
that mattered.
weekend, and the one thing that mattered.
You either beat the other guy and killed their Warcaster, or you lost. That was it, right?
In that community of players, you have very few people, and they do exist. The genuine people that want to, get better. So they'll happily tell you everything and guide you to make you a better player, so that you're a better challenge for them. Yeah. But there's also, a lot of people that aren't very good and will take every opportunity to not tell you something, to pull the wool over your eyes and get a victory, even though it's hollow and they've cheated. They don't care.
Yeah, we have seen a rise in cheating in 40k. This shit that you're seeing right here, this whole mentality that he's talking about, this was not unique to Warmachine. This was everywhere. This was everywhere in Warhammer 40k as well. The big difference is that it killed Warmachine, whereas Warhammer 40k released 8th edition, which completely rewrote the script.
It's hollow and they've cheated. They don't care. On their app, on their phone, that's another victory in my stats. That's a 99% win rate now.
Yeah.
Like, we know at least one person who's tried the game out, played it with someone who's a complete tournament player, has completely smashed them, and they've been like, I have no interest in this game. And that is an issue with the player, but there's a system there that allows that element of poor behavior.
Just like anything, like if you're not replenishing people that leave the hobby, it's the leaky bathtub theory. If you've never heard about it before, the hobby's a leaky bathtub. You're constantly losing hobbyists, so you have to replenish it with new water, right?
Yeah.
So any miniature game that's not doing that, actively recruiting people, they're just getting smaller every year in size.
And that, for a lot of people, where they're like, I think those miniatures are cool.
That's a very good point. I think Games Workshop is very good at bringing new players in. A lot of old players are leaving. The old players that are leaving are the grognards. I would say there's enough new blood for Games Workshop to keep feasting. If Games Workshop is a vampire, they have enough virgin blood to keep them going for a bit.
They're just getting smaller every year in size.
And that, for a lot of people, where they're like, I think those miniatures are cool and I like the game, which is essentially me. Those are pretty cool miniatures. I like the game. I like the way you attribute damage and hits.
It became...
I swear to God, this guy used to run a Games Workshop in Coventry. I feel like I recognise him.
You attribute damage and hits.
Everything became game pieces and chess pieces, and the hobby element was missing. Not that people didn't...
That's big. Yeah. And that's what's kind of, in some ways, that's what's happening with Warhammer 40k. But again, you have less of that because you have to be battle ready. So do you see? There's lots of differences. There's lots of differences between what happened with Warmachine and what's happening with 40k 10th edition now. In 40k 10th edition, some of the most beautiful armies that I encounter are at tournaments. In fact, I can't remember the last time I encountered a badly painted army. Battle ready is, very important. And you, generally speaking, you encounter armies that are very well painted. This is where someone jumps and says, Mordian, you always encounter a badly painted army at tournaments. Your own. That's very true. But other than that, let me just, wipe my tears with this Best Painted award. Oh, there we go. I think that's another difference between 40k. You're not allowed to turn it with badly painted models.
People painted their Warmachine armies, but most of them didn't. If you went and witnessed competitive events, it was just great.
Well, Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because that's another, at the end of the day with Games Workshop pieces, they do cultivate a hobby mentality way more than any other company.
Going to mouse map terrain. I mean, at that point, what do you want to play a tabletop game, or do you want to just play a top-down computer? At that point,
mouse mat terrain. So that's the idea of forests and stuff just being...
Do you want to play a tabletop game, or do you want to just play a top-down computer game where everything's 2D and measurements perfect? And that's another thing is you start getting to very strict boundaries and non-abusable mechanics. I mean, we've all played the tabletop game where somebody's measurement's not quite on point, and you let it slide in some games because you think, oh, actually, what are they going to gain from half an inch? But in Warmachine, you gain quite a lot from half an inch. It could be make or break. It could kill your Warcaster. It could end the game and ruin your tournament.
Introduce an element of...
I think most people are very, very generous with movement in Warhammer 40k. I know I'm very generous with movement. And unless it matters, it does not matter. It can matter, but generally speaking, it doesn't matter. Obviously, if you're going there to win the GT and win the Super Major, then yes, you should. Your path to that should be beyond reproach and should be impeccable. But honestly, it's more about managing your own movement than other people's. Yeah.
Certainty that I could see being a problem, especially if you're playing explicitly for speedy rounds, because that sort of disagreement, I thought that was this, it's not this, suddenly that turns into time on the clock and you're wasting time in a round, especially when some tournament players are playing 10-minute turns or whatever the fuck. It's that is razor thin.
Chess clock, baby. I like chess clocks though. Chess clocks are not there. Chess clocks are just there to make sure that someone doesn't take the piss. That's why they're there. As long as they're not being weaponized. The problem is that chess clocks are... The problem is when you have someone that insists on being a chess clock, it's their idea, and then they keep flicking it over to your time without you realizing they flicked it over, but then they never flick it back. That's the problem with chess clocks. So someone brings it and they go, it's just, flicking it over to you. The moment that you pick up a dice, they flick it over to you. But then the moment your bit's over, they don't flick it back to them. That's where someone's being a cunt with a chess clock. But that happens very, very, very rarely. And normally chess clocks are just there to... normally chess clocks... The way you use a chess clock is you manage If you're the one that's insisting on it, it's because you know you have an army that might take a bit longer, or you're a slower player, and you use it as a method of reassurance. Just like what Swords and Smith said, chess clocks make me play faster, make decisions, it's for me. Yes, exactly. A chess clock should really be for you, and it should be, look, it makes me play better, and it keeps me honest. I'm running an army that could eat into a lot of time, so let's do it that way. But it's the chess clocks, in many ways, chess clocks should be used as a rough guide. So, you know, if you get to the end of an event, if you get to the end, again, unless you're playing top table to take the whole thing, that's different. But when it is just you're a mid-table marauder and you're never in any contention to win anything, chess clocks should be like, okay, we get to the end of the game. Maybe you've got 10 minutes left on the clock and I've got no time left on the clock. Okay. That at that point, the person that's got no time left on the clock shouldn't be timed out, because it's a difference of a few minutes. It's not you've got 40 minutes left and I've got 0. At that point, no, you're fucked. You've used all your time. But it shouldn't be like, you know, if you've got a couple of minutes left and I've got no minutes left, then we've basically had equals time, and we're not running a scientific experiment where everything needs to be calculated down to the second. That's how chess clocks should be used.
These guys are going to get attacked.
Uh-oh. Nice down.
I got more objectives! I have more objectives!
That's a cunt move. He's just like celebrating that he's won on time. Try not to showboat too much, you big bastard.
Good game, Norbert. Good game. Oh my goodness.
He seems okay about it. It's fine.
The jump between Mark II and Mark III, there were some huge rules changes which people didn't like. There was points changes, how everything slowly verged to having theme lists, where it was really cool to see. It was like, you can take this, this, and this. And you're like, okay, that's really cool. And then some of those theme lists were busted as balls.
What timeline was that?
This, and this, to having which people didn't like.
2016, 3rd edition release. So yeah, they copied Warhammer 40k formations. And what's interesting, that almost killed Warhammer 40k, and it did kill Warmachine.
There was points changes, how everything slowly verged to having theme lists, where it was really cool to see. It was like, you can take this, this, and this. And you're like, okay, that's really cool. And then some of those theme lists were busted as balls.
Now, if you went to the website and you went to filter by unit, it was like hundreds and hundreds of units per faction, and they kept everything. And you started to run into problems where you had, and I mentioned the points numbers, where you had 15 units that were in the 3-point range and another 8 units that are in the 4-point range. And how do you start differentiating their effectiveness? Because what will happen is you'll invariably just pick the best one of each category.
That's interesting. So they kept everything around, and people complained because they were like, there's too much choice. I do feel like that might be an element of, oh, my steak is too juicy and my lobster is too buttery. It is always better to have the agony of choice than to be bereft of choice. If you're going to have one of two problems, it's better to have too much of something.
And the game doesn't protect you from that, because the game very clearly states that this is a competitive war game. And you're either in it to win it, and if you're not, then there's the door in this game.
So that's something that's very, very, that cuts very close. I think we can all agree. That cuts very close. In Warhammer 40k 10th edition, there is no reward for picking a worse unit. There's no reward from a flavor point of view. There's no reward when you go to your games. So for example, with something like, if we compare this to Old World, for example, I know that putting pigeon bombs on my engineer is a inefficient choice, but because the rules for pigeon bombs are so brilliant, and there's always a chance that they might go off and actually win me something quite big and important, there is a reward for me as a fluffy bunny for taking the pigeon bombs. Likewise, if I go back to 4th edition 40k for a moment, and I look at something like Bionics on a veteran sergeant, there is almost, most of the time, it is going to do absolutely nothing. But 1 in 6 times, it's going to mean that sergeant gets back up, which, you know, is cool for me. That's a cool, epic moment. I fear that what this guy is saying is extremely relevant to what we see in 40k these days. Now, it's the first, I would say it's the first thing that I've seen that is a direct comparison. I think a lot of the other things we've seen up until this point, I have pointed out where the critical difference is. Sometimes small, but very important lie. That is definitely the first one that I would say unequivocally, that is an issue in 40k right now.
This game isn't for you.
Page 5 was like the creative idea, wasn't it? I think. I can't remember, actually. That's a really... Page 5.
This is where to start, isn't it? It's a relic of a different time.
Yeah, I mean...
It's 100% based and not cringe in the slightest.
Warning, not suitable for wussies. Page 5. Sissies, little girls and Nancy boys should go home now. This game is not for you.
If you cry when you lose, get...
Warning, not suitable for wussies. Sissies, little girls and Nancy boys should go home now. This game is not for you. If you cry when you lose, get lost because you're going to lose. If it hurts your fragile sensibility to see your favourite character get pounded unmercifully by a rapid succession of no-holds-barred Iron Fury, you'd better look the other way. If you ever wind the words, that's too powerful, then put the book down slowly and walk away before making eye contact with anyone, or they'll realise your voice hasn't changed yet. This game is about aggression. This is a game of metal-on-metal combat. This is fuel-injected, power-hopped up on steroids. This is Warmachine, the battle game that kicks so much ass we have to use all capital letters. We didn't set out to reinvent the wheel with this game. We just armor-plated it, covered it in spikes, and rolled it over your grandma's house.
Get lost, because you're going to lose. If it hurts your fragile sensibilities to see your favourite character get pounded unmercifully by a rapid succession of no-holds-barred Iron Fury, you'd better look the other way. If you've ever whined the words, that's too
1 minute.
powerful,
I don't really need his voiceover. I just need the...
then put the book down slowly and walk away before making eye contact with anyone, or they'll realise your voice hasn't changed yet. This is raw. Anyone, or they'll realise...
Okay, Warmachine is simple, it's easy to learn, has no reference charts, needs no heavy arithmetic, and doesn't require constant trips to the rulebook. At the same time, Warmachine possesses deep strategy. The ability to unlock combinations of abilities, spells, maneuvers is practically limitless. For every perfect strategy, there is a foil. For every movable object, there is an unstoppable force. Just when you think you've got it all worked out, you'll be blindsided by something you never saw before. The more you dig, the more you'll find. Warmachine favours the aggressor. You've got to throw the first punch if you want to land on top. Too many other games set players up to be timid, and the battle drags. Can't really see that. 1 minute. And the battle drags out with little action because the game favours defensive strategies. Players park their soldiers behind walls like old ladies hiding from a loud noise. Not in Warmachine. If you wait for your opponent to come to you, you're going to get steamrolled. We've got to have balls to play this game. You've got to charge your opponent and hang it all out there. You've got to break his formations. You've got to be relentless with your onslaught. You have to go for the jugular. Latch on like a rabid dog that hasn't eaten in days. Anything less and you'll be hamburger. You're playing with power now. Don't be afraid. Few things are more satisfying than slamming your opponent warjack into a unit of soldiers and watching them fall like bowling pins. We call this jack bowling. I'm sure you did. Try picking up an enemy warcaster with a warjack, of course, and throw it across the battlefield. It's almost more fun than you should be allowed to have with a miniatures game. The miniatures of Warmachine deliver on every level the game does. The warjacks radiate power. We're pouring so much metal that we may soon deplete the world of tin. That's kind of funny. These things were made for modelling. The incredible detail and expert sculptor will create one of the most enjoyable painting experiences you've ever had. You are now part of a new era of tabletop miniatures. Wargaming. You're now part of a new era of tabletop miniatures wargaming. This is a game made for people like you. It's not a sterilised mass market direct designed by a room full of corporate meat plows, and we've been proving it now for the past 4 years. This is raw, this is brutal, this is Warmachine. So play like you've got a pair, or put down the metal and go join a quilting bee. Play like you got a pair. Obviously, it's utterly cringe. All right? Obviously. But I can't help but think it's okay. It's obviously cringe, but I can't help but feel it's quite tongue-in-cheek. And I can't help but feel it's just trying to hype you up. It's cringe, but maybe you shouldn't take it so seriously. It's kind of my...
Or put down the medal and go join a quilting bee.
If you were to make this as a statement now, your game would bomb immediately.
I don't know. Yeah, like Cosmic, kind of just felt like a wrestling call out back in some 90s fucking Stone Cold Austin calling out some shit. Yeah. People say if you made this now, it would bomb. I don't know. If you made this game in like 2023, 2024, yeah, probably a bunch of people would be clutching their pearls. But I think these days, people are a lot less like, oh, just fuck off with that kind of shit. And, it's like what we've seen with things like Helldivers, and we've, like, and other games. Like, it's, you've got, there's a fine line. I think maybe all of the language about, like, stop being a little girl, and, you've got to play like you got a pair. Yeah, maybe some people would be like, oh, this game is so sexist and whatnot. I think the intent behind it is more like, let's get fucking hyped up. And I think it's obviously, at the end of the day, I think it's a product of its time, but you could produce a very similar statement today and people would kind of get it. Yeah. Now you call it sarcasm. Yeah.
You would be cancelled.
Oh, back then a lot of guys were not seeing it that way. Steve Reisman, you're telling me the community that is going to have the wargaming community, not just Warmachine. You're telling me the wargaming community, which is definitely going to have a disproportionate amount of autistic people that can't interpret sarcasm and are only going to be able to interpret things literally, might have taken it at face value. I'm shocked. I'm shocked and appalled.
So is the truth of it.
I can tell you in my whole time of doing Warmachine, I can definitely say I've heard play like you got a pair, but I never understood it came by page 5. And this was in the rule book.
It was in every single rule book.
Shut the front. 1 second. I'm going to quickly grab this. 1 sec. I'm going to laugh.
2 onwards, it would gradually change.
Shut up.
From Mark 2. So
yes, this is Mark 2, so it might be different.
It's going to be different. It's going to be a bit more toned down.
I'm going to re-attack this. So you're telling me on page 5...
Yeah, honest to God.
Shut the front door. Page 5, here we go. Okay, so the page 5. Oh, yeah, okay. Thou shalt not whine, come heavy or don't come at all. Give as good as you get, win graciously and lose vigilantly. Page 5 is not an excuse. Play like you've got a pay.
I don't know. There's quite a few. I mean, they toned it down in. I don't know. That some of this stuff is all right. Thou shalt not whine. This game is not suitable for wussies. If you cry when you lose, push off because you're going to lose. If it hurts, you're frightened to see your favourite character get pounded. Come heavy or don't come all. Give as good as you get. The proof's in the punishing. The one you give and the one you take. There's no honour in clobbering the smallest kid in the yard. There's no pride to be won in blazing a path to the well for your fail-safe formula. The real bragging rights come from taking down the big dog with a move that jams his pizza hole open like he was a juggernaut in a tube. I have no idea what that fucking means. Down the status quo, defy convention, tempt defeat, then wipe out the food trapping snaggletooth good of its face with the wrecking ball. If the fight is easy, you're not challenging up the ladder. Win gracefully and lose violently. Page 5 is about honesty. It's self-awareness of what we're doing, why we're doing it, who we're doing it for. It's about the kind of people we are and the kind of people we want to face the table. Page 5 is a cultivated strategy designed to get the most out of the game experience. It's about showing up, playing your hardest to win, feeling satisfaction in the game, loss, and respecting your opponent for the accomplished competitor he or she is, no matter what the outcome. Page 5 is not an excuse. Most importantly, let the state loud and clear for the record. Page 5 is not supposed to be a jackass in the name of competition. It's not a shield to hide behind when you're playing like a sissified cheese ball, running down the clock, gaming a scenario, or rules lawing your hapless opponent to death. Page 5 doesn't ever discriminate between genders, and page 5 is never ever a license to diminish the player so you can inflate your own. So it's a little all over the place, but it's got heart.
It's almost trying to decide what you're.
So there's definitely an element. What it's trying to say is play as hard as you can to win, but don't be a cheating dickhead, and don't be a rules lawyering cunt, and don't be a slow playing fucking nonce. All right. Just play hard and play fair, and at the end, shake hands, smile, and get the drinks in. That's kind of what it's about. Yeah, but it comes across. But you have to. You're using sportsmanship. Which, if you said that in any sporting environment, any sport, I used to play rugby all the time. You said that in any, all right, I want a hard game. Right, we're gonna go out there. We're gonna smash them. We're gonna have a clean game, lads. All that kind of stuff. It's sporting language, but you're trying to introduce sporting language into a game full of people that don't really do sports. And I don't really do sports, but yeah.
Community's going to be rather than naturally allowing your community.
And again, Warmachine and wargaming at the time was very different, wasn't it?
I prefer the Mordian rule set. Don't be a dickhead and don't be a shit gun. It's very true. Don't be a dickhead and don't get loaded up with the people's shit bullets.
It's not.
Commando Show, I was a winger. I played for 10 years. I'm very fast. And I'm not afraid to tackle. I was a good winger, I have you know.
You're 4 teenage lads in a Games Workshop shop on an afternoon on a,
He definitely used to work at Games Workshop that I knew.
2004 would have read this and been like, this is amazing, metal, let's play this game.
Yeah.
Whereas now people are like, really?
Is they had this whole thing, this could be a hardcore game for men and manly men and butch men, and it's like, have you met wargamers? They're a little bit...
It's very true. It's very, 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 very true. You're trying to do you know what this is? Do you know what this is? It's actually really reminiscent of, it's really reminiscent of modern 40K. Get your reps in, all that kind of stuff. You've got to get your reps in. You've got to and all that kind of stuff. The sports jerseys, the over-the-top fucking WWE mentality, the taking the game too seriously. It's a little bit like that.
We didn't set out to reinvent the wheel with this game. We just armor-plated it, covered it in spikes, and rolled it over your grandma's house.
It's pretty embarrassing, to look back on, but that's as it was.
You see, the problem is there's a big flaw. There's a big flaw with everyone they're interviewing right now. What have you noticed? What have you noticed about all the people that are commenting on page 5? They're all British, and this game was written by Americans. So, if you're a British person that reads this, you are going to find it extremely uncomfortable because British people, generally speaking, are quite reserved. And American people invented NASCAR and WWE, aka they are the opposite of reserved. So reading this, if an American read this, they'd be like, fuck yeah, dude. Okay, that's not a good accent. But but if a British person reads this, or a lot of other people outside of America read this, it's going to hit very differently. Yeah. Page 5 to me sounds like a fuck yeah, America. Exactly.
Game lives and dies by a community. I think also one of the factors which I don't want to speak...
And the thing is that America back then, you've got to think of the difference. Warhammer has always been pretty niche, but Warhammer probably back then was more prevalent in Warhammer Total Game was probably more prevalent in the UK than it was in the US. Whereas now, I would argue that the US is the biggest market, but it's the biggest market, but it's still very, very, very disparate. The UK, I think, is a much more concentrated home for wargaming.
Too much about it because I was their press ganger thing, because a lot of people...
Cosmic, thank you for Super Chat. How would you take page 5 for British people? You wouldn't include it. You wouldn't include it. It would have you'd have to you wouldn't be able to. You'd have to if you tried to tone it down, it would come across as preachy. If you tried to, you couldn't. You couldn't have anything like it.
Wanted to play the game, and they were given X amount of points to be a press ganger, that they could then spend those points to get models and stuff so they can keep playing their game, but they also gave up their time to do it. But the problem was what they had was a lot of people were just doing it so they could get free models, and they never really cared about the community or did
Let's have a look.
To be a press was their press ganger thing, because a lot of people wanted to play the game and they were given X amount of points to be a press ganger that they could then spend those points to get models and stuff so they can keep playing their game, but they also gave up their time to do it. But the problem was what they had was a lot of people were just doing it so they could get free models, and they never really cared about the community or did that. So you had people who were really passionate and people who were like not really into it, but they just wanted free stuff.
Press Gang has been around now for almost 14 years, good gosh. I think the very first Press Ganger was commissioned in 2002, and it really didn't quite kick off till 2003. Since then, it's been growing and growing as the game has. Currently, we have Press Gangers who service all 50 states, and we just got up to 43 countries that currently have active Press Gangers running events in them.
So that's very interesting, because that is certainly similar to Warhammer 40k. You have a lot of people who will sign the GW NDA to get the free models and to get the early access, for sure. But I think most of them are sincere. We have
everything from China, New Zealand, Croatia, all over Europe, Russia, the Philippines. We just added another one in Japan here recently, South Africa, so almost every continent.
Here are the details. Here are the...
I wonder how big it was before it went down.
facts. The other day here, Privateer Press put out a statement saying, we are disbanding the Press Ganger system. Thank you to everyone, but it's coming to an end.
Mr. Malorian, I remember this guy. He doesn't do content anymore. I'm not going to speak badly of him. I think he went through a very difficult time in his life.
Reasonings that they give is that things are just getting so busy now. There's so many different press gangers. It's such a massive system to try and contain and actually use, and it's just not feasible anymore. So really, if you didn't know, press gangers, you had to run events, and when you ran events, you got points. And for these points, they had a store where you could go on and spend those points to get free stuff. So awesome. Press gangers got a little free something for running stuff. But some people are wondering if they're doing this for another reason. And another reason is that actually Wizards of the Coast with Magic the Gathering is going through a silly lawsuit right now where the judge...
2 lawsuits in Wizards of the Coast say they are. Right.
Judges there are trying to say, hey, we're doing this work and you're not paying us.
Magic judges, people who judge Magic tournaments and events, Magic the Gathering, the card game, they get sort of benefits the same way that, say, most demo team people get some sort of benefits. They either get special cards that only judges get, maybe.
That's such a cool idea. Giant Magic the Gathering cards is such a cool idea.
And a couple of Magic judges out west in the California region, from what I understand, sued Wizards of the Coast because they...
I don't know much about America, but how the fuck did I know it was going to be California?
Said, oh, well, since you're paying us, we're now employees.
Basically, their argument is that they're sort of overworked with no agreement of payment, and even though they're treated as employees, they have none of the benefits of being employees. And as employees, they deserve the rights and benefits that employees should earn. Things like meal breaks and stuff like that.
I don't know a lot about the case. You can go on to Wizards of the Coast website. They have a press release kind of explaining what's going on and how it's basically bunk.
California is a city place. Let's not go there. Beautiful weather.
Going either way, but I have a suspicion.
At least one thing it's got going.
Something like that is kind of indicating which way the wind's blowing. So the source that I talked to said they were pretty sure the reason that Privateer Press had decided to get rid of the Press Ganger program was because they wanted to head that kind of thing off at the pass. They had a lot of people that they had given a lot of points to, and a lot of those points had turned into product that they had been, then purchasing with points off the website for Privateer Press and all this stuff. And they were concerned about potential lawsuits down the road, I suppose. So they decided we should really just kind of cut this off ahead of time.
Even though press gangers are a volunteer system, the whole fact that people might be trying to claim some lost fees could be a possibility. Now, whether that's real or...
So the press ganger system is completely different to anything we see with Warhammer 40k because this whole idea, it's an interesting idea. It's a very novel idea. Run events. Imagine if in Warhammer 40k, if you ran a tournament, you could then, get some free models for doing it. It's a I have no idea how they did it, but it is a massively abusable system. I mean, you could just, you could farm that. You could farm that so fucking hard. Maybe they didn't care if you farmed it, though, if you're running loads of events, but how do they vet it? How do you prove it? They must have had a verification system. They must have done. But, I mean, I guess they don't really care. If you're running loads and loads of events and you're farming the shit out of it, then in theory, you're exposing many, many players to the game. But at some point, there's going to be diminishing returns because if all you're doing is hosting, basically just hosting to the same few people, then you're not bringing anyone new in.
Who can ever know? We can never know if that's actually true, but it's something that might actually be there. Now, another reason why they could be doing this is actually just also the money. We're talking about all those points and all the free things they give out, and I'm sure with all these different people trying to give away this free product, it's probably cost them a lot of money. So to try and run this program, there's got to be a point where you're looking at the benefits to the cost and going like,
killing that program killed a lot of momentum for people who generally loved being a part of the scene and like, oh yeah, I'm giving up my weekend to help run, not play the game I love, just judge and help out the community and help that when that program got killed, that was sad. But I also feel like if you kept that going, it probably would have lasted longer because there's some amazing people I've met who were press gangers, as they were called. And it was just really fun when all of them...
2017, Warhammer 8th edition comes out. Games Workshop massively resurges. I wonder if it was a case of 8th edition killed them.
She said, oh yeah, it's dead, so I'm not going to do it. And some people are like, well, it's sad because of this, this and this. And I won't mention names because I don't want to, but a lot of them were hurt by it because it was like a few bad apples ruined it for a lot of other people.
Always the case.
I met a lovely gentleman from Columbia here at Lock and Load that we've been talking back and forth, and it had been a bit hard for him. He helped bring the entire game into his home country and got it all started there because he was thinking about being a distributor. He didn't quite have the skill set and connections, but he got people going in it. So he basically founded the game there, and now he's supporting it in the press game program.
That's very good.
They did a lot of things right early on. Things like the press ganger program. Things like, trying to set up international distribution to get models around the world quicker. But the focus was always on the American market, because in a very short space of time, as an American company, they dominated the American landscape.
I feel like Warmachine was massive in America. I feel like it was massive in America, and 2017 was 10, 15 years ago. It was 15 years ago. Yeah, of course it was. That's when I saw Warmachine everywhere in the UK as well. It was everywhere. It was absolutely everywhere in the UK as well. Yeah, it had come here, and it was fucking GW hard. 2016, 2017, it was.
If you were in America in the early 2000s and 2010s, Warmachine was on every shelf in every hobby store. You did not have to look far for a game of Warmachine. Here in the UK, or mainland Europe, or Australia,
Privateer Press basically kept everything to their side of the pond, so we would get it eventually, but it was always extortionate prices. I remember some of us were trying to get models and we ended up paying stupid amounts of postage and packaging just to get it, and it basically alienated like Europe and other countries.
It's more
to a certain degree, but I saw a lot of people with it. Difficult
to get hold of the competitive stuff, the stuff that people were running, because popularity. Obviously, there's demand. The bigger retailers that sell, large amounts online, and the American market would obviously, whatever was the most competitive items and the stuff that was made your list, a reliable sort of gaming force that you could win games with, were harder to get hold of.
When I talk about
that makes so much more sense. So it was everywhere in the UK, but as it was such a competitively focused game, it was pay to win. If you couldn't or wouldn't pay to get the best shit, but somebody else would, you were fucked. Very difficult. Very difficult.
Tournaments, it's like I used to cover Worlds, which is basically countries send their best 4 players to go and play Warmachine to be the best in the world, and only if one country can have access to them, it's kind of like makes it a bit meh,
Last year,
Cosmic, thank you for the super chat, man. I'm following tradition for last night painting. Oh, for your tournament. Yeah, man. Keep going, baby. Keep going.
our winner was from
I love it,
Australia.
Cosmic.
It was our first international winner. Before that, it had been USA, I believe, 3 years in a row. Australia took it away, so there's a little North American pride on the line this year. I bet.
because ultimately you're not going to worry about trying to
This wouldn't be a problem if 3D printing existed. The people would just 3D print whatever they needed.
distribute models to other countries if you fundamentally want your country to win.
No,
that's really good for this particular.
I think that's bollocks. Oh, you're not gonna send the models out to other countries because you want your country to win. Fuck off. They're a company. They'll sell to anyone. If that was even for one iota, for one moment, for one nanosecond, for one smidgen of a reason why they were fucking things over to the countries, and they deserve to fail, frankly. Capitalism has no conscience and has no country.
The faction that's popular, it's like, okay, we'll put it on order, and it would take a while to get hold of. It wasn't a sort of it'll be a next week thing. And you see that with any large game that's very, very popular, the demand outstrips. It becomes the point where you might wait weeks or months, and to some point you might actually wait longer than that thing's a viable competitive unit. By the time that it starts hitting the shelves again, everyone says it's dead. That's the old way. This is the
Now that's very interesting. By the time you get the new thing, it's already out of date, and there's a new thing. So there's definitely an element of that in Warhammer 40k. But what's interesting, it's interesting with 40k. It's like yin and yang. Some people, they won't buy something that's niche, that's good right now, because by the time they get it, it won't be good. But for some people, they'll just buy whatever they want because they know at some point it'll come good. So it depends on if you're a meta chaser or in it for the long haul. If you're a meta chaser, will you buy it to resell it or know that you might be left holding the bag? If you're a casual player, will you buy it because you won't worry about it because at some point it'll become good? Interesting.
Next hot things on order, so to speak.
And if we're continuously being discouraged by Privateer Press just not having their product available, we're going to start buying these other things. It's just the way that things go. And that
Shit, man. So if they couldn't keep up with this is one of the big things with Games Workshop. They can't keep up with production, so people buy elsewhere. The fact that Games Workshop can't keep up with production with the proclivity of 3D printing and third-party sellers is very interesting.
That is a major problem right now. That is why when I'm hearing from various other communities in North America, the game is a lot stronger and there's more people playing as opposed to over in Europe where so many people have given up on it.
Everybody that's in the community's got one, or God forbid, the rules change and nobody wants it because it's trash now anyway.
Privateer Press constantly kept changing things and
Oh,
errated stuff. So everything
shit.
became...
Oh, fucking shit. Oh, my fucking God. Fuck me. That's it. We're... No, right. Yeah, okay. Cool. Yeah, that's the fucking... Yeah, okay. Yeah. We're fucking cooked.
Digital, which for some people was easy to do, but not everybody, because everyone likes card and, you know, those old things. But then they would effectively say, okay, we need to errata some things, so this person's changing because of the meta of the tournament basis of things. So your original cards were pretty much becoming non-void. So you'd buy a miniature, it didn't come with a card, or it did, and then effectively a couple of months later it would change.
Yeah.
They would take models and put them in this like player testing pool, and players could take those rules, so they try to involve the players.
Right. Yeah,
and then something would like release. They'd be like, okay, this is it, and then people would backlash if they didn't like things. So then they would have to change it because they were like now they were like, because they're working with the community, and now they have to like bend the knee when the community's annoyed. But this doesn't jive with model releases well, because if that was supposed to be new release this month, but the players hate the rules for it, so now no one's buying that. Like, see where I'm going with it, right? Yeah. So
the most common feedback was, why would you order those in? And it's like, well, they're the start. They're the sort of get you started boxes. They're the first sort of tentative foray into playing the game. We go, oh no, nobody uses those. So a lot of it was just dead stock immediately.
They can't.
Well, the chain reaction that happens is often like...
That's huge. Dead stock, Saturnine. So, yeah, things getting nerfed before they come out. Combat patrols. This is where the fucking juice is.
Forgotten about, right? So like if Y Hobby Shop has a big Warmachine section, and 90% of the wall on the blister rack is like stuff that's really just not moving. You have to times that by 10 or 100 when you go to the distributor level, and it just starts to this back up happens.
Then stores are still like, but I carry everything on the shelf because you guys aren't retiring anything.
Right.
And when they would make new stuff that was better than the old stuff, then the old stuff just sat there.
Like you don't want to put hundreds of pounds or thousands of pounds even into stocking something that's going to be dead stock, and then you can't then reinvest that money back into just restocking everyday items like paint and brushes and the usual stuff that does shift.
The high turnover things.
Yeah. The consumable sort of every day, every week things that people pop in and grab.
You already had like a bit of that discounting culture going on with like some, they didn't have the strong trade practices that Games Workshop does, whether you like that or not. It does protect businesses from racing to the bottom to destroy themselves. But you didn't have that protection with Warmachine. So like online web stores could literally mark their stuff up as little as like 5%. And essentially after shipping and fees like are making nothing. And every store is like, why am I selling this on my shop wall?
Another big competitor was doing all the right things and competing in the same space, and it kind of started to sort of die off at the same time that the other one is taking up that space, and ultimately I think it took a long time for it to completely sort of die a death locally, but it did. Even the guys that were hardcore Warmachine players were playing other things, and they weren't playing it anymore. And then at that point it was like,
wow, personally, that really hits home. I'm not even being silly. I'm not even pausing for dramatic effect. Personally, that really hits home. I think that's going to hit home for quite a few people.
It's got to go on eBay. It's gathering dust. It's not selling at all. Nobody's interested. Not even your kind of miniature painters. Where they're like, well, I'll just buy it because it looks interesting. It's like it's just doing nothing. So at that point, you've got to kind of pull the plug and try and reinvest and use the shelf space for something that is, going to get you some sales.
Yeah. America would always be the priority for new product releases because that was their backyard. That was their competitive edge from day one. They didn't have to worry about expanding into the world's largest economy. They were already there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that gave them a tremendous advantage from the start. But later down the line, it would come back to haunt them.
Back in 5 years, I have a handful.
Warmachine, the anchor tenant, documents made possible by
Maybe
Patreon.
less than 10 wins.
Because if it's scattered, it would still knock down everybody.
I remember him. He was from Mini Wargaming.
And then the other guy walked over and automatically pictured he was knocked down and didn't have damage.
Dan, the orc
So
guy.
automatically killed his warcaster. And so my last turn, I didn't roll any dice.
I then got up and was like, I know I'm going to kill you. And the guy was like, really? How? And I went, bum, 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 game. And he went like, what the fuck? And I was like, yeah, I know. Oh, I'm going for a beer. Do you want one? One of my favourite models I
That happened a lot in 7th edition. That happened a lot in 7th edition.
I got into the game because of this was the Butcher. The newer sculpt swinging the axe is way cooler, but that was the first ever mini I bought. Another Butcher with, again, look at the yellowing, ugh.
Surrounded by ruination.
Mental. There's a lot of, fuck me, there's a lot of similarities there, boys. There's a link to it, by the way. Apparently it's still going, but it's been, the Privateer Press has died. Privateer Press died, but it got reacquired by Steamforged Games, and they seem to it still be going, but it's very limited now. It's very, very limited. So shatter its former self. It seems to me like what killed Warmachine was Warhammer 40k 8th edition. So, when did Warmachine and Hordes 3rd edition come out? 2016. Summer of 2016. And we know Warhammer 40k 8th edition came out in 2017. So that, I think, is what would have done it. So basically what you have is a lot of people are getting fucked off with Warhammer 40k 6th and 7th edition. And so they end up going over to Warmachine, and that explodes massively, explodes hugely, and they basically just have a mass. And I saw that personally, in my life at that point, like over the course of end of 5th, 6th, 7th edition. What happened was everyone just started playing Warmachine. Huge swathes of people started playing Warmachine. And then 8th edition came out and everyone came back to Warhammer 40k. So essentially, for many people, Warmachine was it was a bit of a rebound, but the issue that that they had is they made that there was a double mistake. There was a double doozy of a mistake because they fucked up. Warmachine fucked up their, or should I say Privateer Press, but whatever. Warmachine Hordes fucked up their 3rd edition release, which pissed everybody off. And then 40k nailed their 8th edition release, which tempted everyone back over. If they hadn't fucked up their 3rd edition release, then there's a real chance that even if 8th edition continued to be a very big success, as it was, there's a real chance that what would have happened is they would have been able to retain the player base they had, but it was the double doozy. So Warmachine was very, very successful, but they dropped a clanger at the worst possible moment. And it was just at the time that GW basically snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing. Truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full-time without the incredible and generous support of my members. So thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Redfield, 32, Jurgens, Miasma, Try Again, Bragg, RJ, Scorpion, Bonbon Vert, Lord Pryor, Nicholas Walsh, John Stubbs, Guardian, Varney, Sword, Fish Trombone, Picklock the Forged. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.